On June 18th, Arnold Palmer staged one of the greatest comebacks in U.S. Open history when he came from 7 strokes down to win the 1960 U.S. Open, defeating a young Jack Nicholson to win his very first U.S. Open. Here's the story behind how all this happened today on Daily Sports History.
This episode is brought to you by Our Weird World. Every week, I, John Henson, dive into weird, crazy, and forgotten stories from the history books that you have probably never heard before. I try to put some humor into it, or maybe I just come off sounding like a dick. That's really up for you to decide. But join me every Monday. Subscribe everywhere that you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Daily Sports History. I'm Ethan Reese, your guide to a rapid deep dive into sports history every day. And today's trivia question to listen out for is, where did the term Grand Slam come from? Now, Arnold Palmer was basically born into golf, as he was born in Pennsylvania, and his dad was the head professional and groundskeeper of the local country club, which gave him great insight into the golf and had him learning golf at an early age. And this allowed him to go to college at Wake Forest, and he actually enlisted into the U.S. Coast Guard for 3 years. And after winning the NCAA championship, he would turn pro in 1955 and would win his first major tournament, the Masters, in 1958 and in 1960, which made him the heavy favorite heading into the U.S. Open, which is today one of the golf Grand Slams, which are considered the Masters Tournament, the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship. Now, the term Grand Slam actually comes back from the 1930s when the Grand Slam was the Open Championship, the U.S. Open, the U.S. Amateur, and the British Amateur, which was won by Bob Jones in 1930. And it was given that term by the Atlantic Journal's O.B. Keller, who dubbed it the Grand Slam, borrowing the term from the game bridge. But in 1960, they would actually go on to make a modern Grand Slam, as playing in the amateur tournaments wasn't as popular as many of the players were pro now. It wouldn't start till 1960, after Arnold Palmer won the Masters in the U.S. Open, and while on his way to the Open Championship, his friend Bob Drum, writer for Golfer's Life, Bob Drum, suggested a modern Grand Slam, adding in the PGA Championship. And Drum spread his idea throughout the media, and it caught fire, and 2 years later, the PGA Championship changed to stroke play, and it started 2 weeks after the Open Championship instead of the same weekend, allowing it to become one of the major Grand Slam tournaments. But that probably wouldn't have happened if Arnold Palmer didn't go on to win the U.S. Open. And it wasn't a surefire thing, as Mike Sojek, who was a football player at Duke turned golfer, had 2 of the best first rounds in the U.S. Open history, shooting a 68 the first round, taking the lead, being 3 under par, and shooting a 67 in the second round, totaling 135 and giving him 7 under par. Shooting 135 strokes, giving him 7 under par, a 3-stroke lead over second place Doug Sanders. And at this point, Arnold Palmer was not even in the top 10. Now, a thing to remember back then is, even though they did play 4 rounds for the U.S. Open, they did so in 3 days. They would play the first 2 rounds in 1 day. So Thursday was the first round, Friday was the second round, and on Saturday they would play round 3 in the morning and round 4 in the evening, making it a very hard and long day for golfers, which is why they have changed this, and now every round gets its own day. After the third round, Mike still had the lead, and heading into the third round, Arnold Palmer was 8 strokes behind Mike and wasn't even under par. So to think for him to even think about winning was a long shot. And after the third round, things didn't get much better, as he was now just 7 shots behind Mike. But still, there was 14 other players ahead of him, as he was still in 15th place. And also behind other great golfers heading into the final round, such as Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player. And before that final round started, Arnold asked his good friend Drum from the magazine if he had any shot, even if he shot a 65, and he thought he was just too far behind. There was no chance, no matter what he shot. So Arnold went out there and just played as well as he could. And on the first hole, which was a par 4, which he had bogeyed every single time, hitting it into the water on all the previous rounds. He missed the water and was able to get a birdie on that first hole and would go on to birdie 5 of the next 6 holes, shooting him into the leaderboard. And on hole 8 would be the only bogey he would have. And by hole 11, he would have taken the lead away from U.S. amateur champion Jack Nicklaus, who would go on to finish second, just behind Palmer, who shot a 65 and won by 2 strokes, staging an improbable comeback and changed the career of not only Palmer, but Jack as well. As later on in life, Jack tells Arnold that if he would have won that tournament, it would have completely changed his career. He wouldn't have fought as hard as he wanted to and may have not won as many majors because he didn't have that drive anymore. And vice versa, Arnold, after winning this, actually let off the gas a little bit, as this was his coveted one that he wanted to win more than any other tournament. And when he finally won it, his drive went back a little bit, and he would coast later on in his career. But for winning this U.S. Open, he won $14,400, which is roughly $148,000 today. Which today, the U.S. Open winner will win $3.9 million. Just goes to show you how much golf has grown since then, which was largely helped by these 2 players in Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. Now, Arnold would go on to win 4 more Grand Slams following this and would be inducted into the Golf Hall of Fame in 1974 and is often considered one of the greatest golfers to have ever played the game. And after this, he helped set up the modern Grand Slam, which has helped grow the sport even more, as these 4 tournaments everyone looks to every year to watch to see who will win a Grand Slam. And I want to thank you for listening to today's Daily Sports History. If you like this, please share it with a friend. Word of mouth is the greatest way for us to continue to grow, and we want to continue to grow to give you even more sports history every day. And come back tomorrow for more Daily Sports History. And did you catch the answer to today's trivia question? Where did the term Grand Slam come from? It was Atlantic Journal's O.B. Keller who called Bob Jones' 1930s Grand Slam after using the term from the game bridge.